Okay guys, here we are about to set up a FCV-588 Furuno for medium and deep water. Same menu structure for the whole FCV-585, 587, 588 and the 620, 627 series. So we'll just jump straight into it. So you got the header here across here, so this explains how you're running it. So I'm running on manual range, my gain is on auto cruising, I'm on HF, so 200 kilohertz. I'm making 12.1 volts, 25.1 degree water temp. It's got a temperature graph here that's narrow, my depth 1.8 meters. I'm on a 0 to 20 meter range. So we'll just dive into the menu structure. Hit menu, so this is your sounder functions first. So that's where you set up your picture advance. So I'm on ×2, which is what I like. I like my zoom on marker zoom. So you got the option of marker zoom, bottom lock, or it does like an automatic zoom where it goes up and down, but I'd rather have the ability to manually do it myself. You can do your shift in here, but I'll show you another way to do the shift by making the function key shift. Got the interference turned off, color erase. Yeah, I haven't played with that. It's producing pretty good results. I don't have to play with it. Same with the white line. This is something that I do though. I do run the blue background and then I'll run a white bottom. So I set up the white marker. So what that allows me to do, so I've got the bottom as white instead of maroon, which is the typical Furuno colour. Here's your colour bar over here, so you can see it's white, like maroon, you know, reds, orange, yellows, green, blues, progressively lighter density. Can't quite see anything there at the moment, but when you get on live bottom you start seeing your like cyans and yellows and stuff. So it just allows you a bit more contrast against the white bottom to see those sorts of colours. So this is what we used to do in the old days when JRC FF50s were the gun sounder, and I've sort of continued it through. And I've probably always run a blue background for my palette. You know, I've had Codens, I've used the old 600L Furunos, so I've always had blue palette as my background. I did go on one boat once that we pretty much had to run a white background because it was flush mounted, but it was quite flat, so you couldn't see it from any distance away. So white definitely worked best there. TVG's greyed out at the moment because I'm running on auto gain. You can't actually do anything in the TVG until you're running on manual gain. So Wayne Thompson, who's actually a South East Queensland Garmin rep, explained TVG best. Basically you're dividing the screen into thirds and you're telling the processor what to concentrate on. So I'm on TVG medium at the moment, so I'm trying to get the processor to look at the bottom third. So I'm trying to mark marlin, so I'm set up for marlin fishing at the moment. If I was bottom fishing, you'd have TVG high because you want the processor to concentrate down the bottom here. And say you were marlin fishing on the shelf and you're trying to mark the fish in the top, say 100 meters, then you might be on TVG low because you want the processing power concentrated on the top third of the screen. So that's sort of how TVG works. And so everyone automatically goes, oh, TVG high, because yes, they're for bottom fish, yes, but depending what you're doing, marlin fishing, fishing for pelagics, you might want to get in, there might be a thermocline here and you want to get in underneath it, so you can go TVG medium. So anyway, I'm running on medium for marlin fishing at the moment, trying to mark mid-water. Smoothing on, I think that just sort of extends your little arches. I've definitely played with that. This is a new set for me. I've just come off a 14-15 year old 585, and thanks to the guys at Furuno Taylor Marine, Shane Beardmore, Mueller, our local distributor, I've got this new unit, the 588. But anyway, my 585 was an awesome machine, and yeah, she just finally went on me a few months ago. So yeah, smoothing on, extends your arches. Bottom zone, don't know anything about that. TX power, so I've just cranked it up to 100. TX rate on 10. So, you know, that works for me. I don't know entirely the technical things behind all that. Come back down into display. So I've got the A scope off, but some people do like the A scope, you know, like on the side here, like the old flasher transducers from the, you know, old Humminbird Lowrance Bass Pro days when Bass Pro fishing's first started. Depth size small, so I've got good eyes, I only need it small. Zoom markers on, so that gives me my little line and my depth when I set up my zoom, full marker zoom. Temperature graph narrow, like I said, so that helps you if you go through a color break, a temperature break. You'll see a little spike in your temperature graph. So instead of concentrating on the digital display, you can, you know, watch the graph go up and down. The ultimate, I've been on boats with the Furuno Time0 system, and you can have the snail trail different colors. So as you go through breaks, your snail trail changes color, so then you can actually like work a break because you can sort of see where it is on your GPS screen. Just got the battery display on, color bar on over here like we explained. Blue palette, like I said, I'm running on blue palette. You got black, you got white, you got night vision. Colors, I'm on 64, might as well use all of them. Header info on, so that's all this info up here. Header scale, time, yeah, I guess, yeah, you can see this time bar coming through here. Nav data, so that's, I've got temp on. You could, you know, run all sorts of nav data on the screen. Haven't got the AccuFish on or res boost mode on the 588, so that's along the bottom, tells you what sort of bottom it is. I'd rather tell, you know, soft bottom like sand or mud is just a very thin line. Once you get on the hard bottom, your bottom thickens up, and then you also start getting tails underneath your bottom. So I'd rather just run everything manual fish arches, etc. Come into alarm, so this is where you can set all your fish alarms up, your depth alarms, etc. So it's pretty annoying. I've never been able to get it to work real good. It sounds exactly like the alarm that's in Wicked Tuna when it goes off all the time on the TV shows. So there's obviously a Furuno fish alarm they use there. But yeah, you can set all this up if you want. Data. So I do have my data box on 1. So data box on, and then you go down here and I've got temperature on there. But you could, if you linked the Furuno to a plotter, you would then potentially get all this other information which you could then display on the screen. So anyway, I've just got temperature on. There's your data box 2, where you get all your information from. Like if you had a trijuicer, you could get the paddle wheel speed, etc. Or you've got other temperature probes or whatever. Come down into range. So this is a very important menu that I use all the time. So we go across here. So I've got mine set 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So you obviously come with some default ranges, but then that's what I program mine in for. Then I'm always usually playing around with these last two here. So that, say I'm out in 140 odd meters, you know, I might be jumping between that one, or if I come back into 127 or something, I might go to that one. So I'm always changing these, or if I'm on the shelf, you know, I might make that one 450 and that one 500 or something like that. So to change them, you hit enter, and then you manually go up and down, hit enter again, and then that's your new manual range scales that you determine yourself. But it is, yeah, there's no dials or anything for it. You have to come into this menu. So it's a bit clumsy, but it's there if you need it, and I use it all the time. Like I said, my zoom range, I'm running marker zoom and I'm running 30 meters. So This is also, say you were blue marlin fishing on the shelf, you're out in 500 meters, but you actually wanted to set your screen up so you had like on the zoom side you had 0 to 100 meters. So this is where you would change that there to 100. So you would essentially have 0 to 100 meters on this side of the screen and your top to bottom view on that side, and that's when you're trying to mark a marlin in that top 100 meters of the water. Because I don't think in a normal size boat you're going to raise one out of 100. I've raised them out of 70. They've come up straight up from 70 meters down. So that's one way to run your screen blue marlin fishing on the shelf. Then you got your bottom lock, which say bottom lock makes your bottom flat, and then it shows you stuff above it. So at the moment it's set up for 5, or you might make it 10. Anyway, I don't run it like that. So, but if you're used to it, that's where you change it. So we hit escape, come down to key. So this is where we said we make the function key shift. So that's your function key there. So what I do, I could set like a range of 30, and then I use the shift button to move that 30 meters up and down in the water column as I need. And that's also where you turn your key beep off if you don't really need the beep every time. Language, English obviously, units. So, you know, obviously I'm running in meters, you might be running in fathoms in your local area, or you might be running in feet. I'm degrees Celsius, I'm not worried about the fish size, I run everything manual. Old school speed, so I'm knots. Younger generations seem to be in kilometres, same with their distance, their kilometres, but I'm nautical miles. This is where you set up your enemy A. So if you link this to a plotter, you know, you will get lat and long and speed information on your screen, which I did used to do. If you actually link it to a Furuno, the sentences that come through, you can hit this mark button here and shoot GPS coordinates across to your plotter. But worst case, if you are linked, you can hit mark, then you can scroll across to like a pinnacle or something here, hit mark again, and it'll display a longitude and latitude on the screen, and then you can manually enter that into your plotter. So it is handy. I have had it linked in the past, not at the moment. It does get a bit of interference, like electrical tick going through the screen, so I'd rather keep my screen nice and clean. So that was the NMEA. Now, calibration menu. This is another important one that I use all the time. So well, if you're on a big boat, you might have to drop a bit of keel draft in there. But this one here, gain adjust HF, you can adjust your gains up and down plus or minus 20. So HF's what I use mostly. So straight away I'm going to pump him up to plus 20. So on maximum gain there on my HF side. And then a lot of people comment that I run really low gain figures with the actual gain knob here, and that's probably because I'm pumped up internally plus 20. So definitely worth doing. And then if you run dual frequency, so I will run dual frequency a lot, marlin fishing, this is where you can then calibrate your LF side against your HF side, and you're wanting the screens to look about, you want your bait balls or your fish arches to look about the same. So at the moment I'm running my LF side on plus 4. If you are just going out to the shelf and you wanted heaps of gain, I'd then pump my LF up to plus 20, and I'm not too worried about my HF. But my HF's probably good out to 200 meters. So that's an important menu to play around in. So calib, and then my temp. With this new unit, I seem to be running a bit high, so I've just put it down to -1, just so you can match the fleet or match some other guy that you fish with all the time, or if you got a temperature probe you can dial it in, get it exact. So that's where you do that. Same with your speed. If you have the paddle wheel, you can calibrate it, get it right. I'm not too worried about the fish size, obviously in salt water, not too worried about all this sort of stuff here. So hit escape, transducer. I have been playing around in here, so I'm running a 1 kilowatt tilted element. Just trying to get my fish arches a bit better for me marlin. It's painting the bottom fish awesome, but I just haven't got it dialed in just quite right yet against how my old 585 used to read. So yeah, that's the 1 kilowatt option, or I've been playing up here with the 5200 as well, just to see how it affects the screen. Demo mode, don't need to worry about that. Tests, don't need to know about that. Restore, I guess you can do a factory reset there if you somehow something bugs out. So that's the menu button. Then you got escape opposite here. Then you got your up and down, left and right cursor button, and your enter. So that's how you sort of do all your functions, or your up and down. This is your marker, like we talked about. So either for the marker zoom, or maybe you're marking a whole pile of fish coming through at 10 meters, and you can put that cursor onto them, then run your downrigger at that depth or whatever. So that's available to you. So then you got your range button. So you go across into auto, which I don't like, or you got your manual. So that's how I prefer to run it. And as soon as we come out, if the river mouth here was straight into 10 meters, then into the teens, so I don't worry about having a 5 or 10. I just straight to 20, and then every 10 meter increments, because they're probably my main depths that I fish day to day. And then, like I said, I can change these two around depending if I'm on the shelf or I'm out in that sort of 140, 150 meter range. Anyway, so we go back to 20. So that was the range button. Mark button, like we said, you could hit that if you were linked to a GPS and you get an MEA data. So function, this is the function key, so this is where we're shifting. So I'm shifted 5 now, so I'm range 20 and I've pulled it down 5, so there you go, I'm 5 to 25. So that's how if you set your function key up as shift. So hit enter. You can set your function key up as like picture advance, so maybe you might be on 2 to 1 most of the time, and then if you go at the shelf you might want to be on 1 to 1. Some people might be on 4 to 1, like maybe in shallow water. If you're not necessarily an offshore guy, you could go 4 to 1. And then we come down here to the gain button. So if you push it, this is where we can go between our fishing gain, cruising gain, or manual. So with this current 588, I find the fishing gain has got a bit too much, so I've been running on cruising gain, or I go to manual gain when I'm either on the shelf or I'm marlin fishing and I'm trying to run as much gain as possible, trying to mark the fish. So then if you use this mode button, I come around to dual, so then I'm running low frequency, high frequency. So the LF is like a wide angle, HF's a narrow cone, so I'm trying to mark fish out to the sides of my transducer on the LF side, and my HF side's my straight up and down accurate one. So if I'm marking him on the HF, he's straight under the boat. If I'm just getting a half an arch or something, he's just a bit out to the side. So that's with a 5200 kilohertz transducer. Obviously there's a lot of different transducers out there, but for my situation I find it best for me, and the 50 is pretty wide. I do mark them off to the side a fair bit. So and this is, so you can see I'm now manual range, gain on 3.8. So really I'm probably running a bit too much gain here on the LF side. So the LF's running, marking lots, nothing on the HF, so you can dial it down a little bit. Probably marking some brim there because I'm just tied up at the jetty. So, that's sort of cleaning the picture up a bit there now. You can dial it right up and blot it right out. But anyway, that's where you play with your manual range. Probably becomes important out on the shelf too. The shelf really tests your sounder's capabilities to get a good picture. So go back to auto cruising, hit enter, You can see it's cleaned up the LF side too, but it's marking a lot more brim than the HF side, so maybe there's some just off to my side. That was the gain button. Okay, then we got our mode. So like I said, I've just gone to dual LF HF, 50 side, 200 side, mostly running it around one click to the right, which is your HF, and then HF zoom is the one to the right. So like we said before, I've now got a 30 meter marker zoom that is starting at 10 meters, so you can see I'm 10 to 40. So you can either do that for your bottom fishing to try and look at the bottom, or you can set it up if you're pelagic fishing to whatever you want in the water column. You go right over, you got some nav information, so we go back to dual, and then we're back around one click to low frequency. So now we're on the 50 kilohertz side. And we got the 50 kilohertz zoom. So this is if we were, say, on the shelf and you're either using the zoom to look at the bottom if you're deep dropping, or you might, and then you might want to keep it at 30 meters or something like that to find fish on the bottom when you're on the shelf. Or this is when you dial in your 0 to 100 and you're trying to mark fish on this side and your zoom side, and then you top the bottom view, you know, down to 550 meters or whatever whilst you're trolling. So that's your LF zoom. One more click over, you got more nav data. So we'll just go back to HF, and so now I'm back to HF, 0 to 20. That's my day-to-day screen that I use. Power button and night light down here. So that's it in a nutshell. Dialing in a 588 Furuno for medium and deep water fishing. I believe the only real videos on YouTube are more Melbourne charter operator guys setting them up for Port Phillip, so it's probably not necessarily how the rest of Australia would set them up. Like the WA guys would be the same as us Queensland guys for depths, I'm guessing. New South Wales guys, you know, Tasmanian guys, if they're going out after trumpeter and they're in that sort of 100 meter depth, or they're deep dropping for blue eyes. So hope this can help you. Signing off from a miserable Mooloolaba on the Sunshine Coast in South East Queensland. So this has been Smithy from Smithy's Fishing Charters. Hope this helps you set your Furuno up and gives you a bit of an insight into how I run my sounder and what works for me, and hopefully it works for you. Okay, bye.